This episode is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website, portfolio, and online store. For a free trial and 10% off, visit squarespace.com and enter the offer code PVS at checkout. A better web starts with your website. Hey there folks, welcome to the Photo Video Show where we explore all things DSLR. I'm your host, Mark Puckett, and on today's show we're going to be talking about histograms. Now look, I know it's not glorious, I know it's not glamorous, and I know it's not sexy, but it is an important tool in the grander scheme of your exposures. And most people, quite honestly, just don't even know how to use them. So that's what we're going to discuss today, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so what we have here is a picture of a bride on her wedding day. And taking a look over here in the histogram, we can see that this is potentially an overexposed photograph. And why? Because we can see that all the RGB data, the reds, the greens, the blues, they're all mashed over here on the right-hand side. If this had been an underexposed photograph, it would have been smashed over here to the left. So as a quick tip, when you're looking at your histogram, the shadows are always on the left-hand side and the highlights are always on the right-hand side. Let me go ahead and give you a quick tip as far as I can tell about histograms. There are no right or wrong histograms. There's only a general consensus of either good or bad, okay? And it really kind of all depends on the type of camera you have. If you have a more expensive camera that has more dynamic range, you're going to be able to capture more data without that data clipping either into the highlights or into the shadows. With most DSLRs, you have about 4 to 5 stops of dynamic range that can effectively fit between the uber darks on the left and the uber brights on the right. Now, I can't really see all the data that's in this chart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slightly bring the exposure down so I can see more of the data. And because I shot the photograph in RAW, I have that ability. I have the ability to recover that overexposed data. Now I can get a better view of where my blues, where my greens, and where my reds are located in the photograph. If you look at the picture, you can basically see that there's sort of this like yellowish, warmish kind of tone to it. And if you're into that kind of thing, that's fantastic. But usually when I'm editing photographs, I try to get a perfect white balance first. And then I try to apply a warming or cooling effect after the fact. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to bring, if you look at your histogram, I'm going to try to bring the blues, the greens, and the reds in this peak here perfectly together and create a more balanced white. So I'm going to grab my temperature slider here and I'm going to drag it over to the cooler to reduce that warming look. And if I don't push the blues further than the greens, I'll get pretty close to a perfect white without going too far in the blue area. And I'll show you what it would look like if I pushed it any further. You can start to see that it begins to cool it off quite a bit. And now you can see that the blue is actually out further past the greens and the reds. I don't happen to like that, so I'm going to try and bring the peaks as close together as I possibly can to make them force a solid, awesome white color. Now that I've got my white balance just about where I want it, I'm going to re-expose the photograph because I'd like to really kind of push those highlights. And in wedding photography, there are a lot of people that try to push it more to the bright white side. It gives it a more dreamy feel. It gives it a more ethereal feel. And that's what most brides are looking for their special day. They want to look like pretty princesses. And this effectively does that. And then once I've got the overall general image the way I want, then I can apply different effects or touches or feels or anything that may complement the photograph based on what the client is looking for. So you're a photographer or a videographer, whatever the case may be, you happen to use your camera to make money, right? Well, you can make even more if you have a beautiful website to showcase your work. And that's where Squarespace comes in. It's simple and easy, it's got a beautiful design, you can drag and drop your content anywhere on the page and it still looks great. Plans start at only $8 a month and include a free domain if you sign up for a year. It's got a great responsive design and you can even sell your work on your very own website because every single site comes with an online store. Start a trial with no credit card required and start building your website right now. When you decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure to use the offer code PVS to get 10% off your first purchase and to show your support for the Photo Video Show. We want to thank Squarespace for their support, and Squarespace, a better web starts with your website. So here's a picture of the bride with the father. This is just a candid shot where they happen to be standing there, and I asked them to give me a smile. But as you can see, they're backlit with the sun. The sun's behind them. So now we need to figure out, can we make this a usable, workable picture? If we look at our histogram, we can see that generally most of the tones are in the middle. Most people would look at this histogram and go, this is a great histogram. And for the most part, looking at it from a purely data standpoint, it is. But over here on the left, we can see that there's a large amount of clipping, and I gotta be honest, I don't know that we can get that data back. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to try to bring my RGB perfectly in line. It looks like, I'll just hit auto and see what happens. It's gonna try to expose for skin tones. That's not too bad. And if I move it a little bit over to the left or the right, looks like it could use just a smidge of cool treatment. I can see in the highlights where they're either getting colder or warmer. And we want this to be relatively neutral. Okay, now we still have this clipping of the shadows on the left. I'm gonna see if I can recover that data, but there is a chance that we won't be able to. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to increase exposure and push all that data more toward the middle. But as you can see over here on the left, that big spike never moved, almost as if it's just not there. That data is so far gone that we quite absolutely cannot get it back. I could even try to increase my shadows here, see if I can push some of that black data out. But even with shadow recovery all the way up, we can still see that the black in the pants, that the data is completely gone. We absolutely cannot get that data back. And that's no real fault one way or the other. That just means that my camera did not have the dynamic range to capture all of the highlights to its fullest and all of the shadows to its fullest. So essentially, that data in this particular photograph is gone, unfortunately. But for the most part, I think that the picture can still be delivered with a bit of a treatment, and she'll still enjoy the photograph nonetheless. So that is essentially what the histogram does for us as photographers in the field. Most modern day cameras will allow us to take a look at our histograms and see what is and is not available, what data is being captured and which data is being gotten rid of. So you as a photographer, as you're taking your photographs, it is your responsibility to try to get as much of the dynamic range in the middle of your histogram. You don't want to lose data when you take the shot, because if you can still capture the data, you can still manipulate the data, especially in RAW. Well, there you have it, and there you go. Now you know all you need to know about the things and the suches in the business. But if you guys would, please be our friends and our pals over on the Facebook and the Twitter, and like and share our videos because you're nice people. At any rate, thanks for stopping by here at the Photo Video Show. I'm your host, Mark Puckett. I'll see you guys again next time.